Good morning. How is everybody today? Welcome to the Coffee Table Talks. Today we are talking to Ritesh Agrawal. Did I do that right? I swore I was going to practice, but I was typing and trying to practice at the same time. So I hope I did. I think he's frozen, but this is the CEO for a very cool company called airgap.io. And this is our first really just, I guess, vendor showcasing chat that we're having. So we're exploring this together, guys. It's going to be super fun. With me, as always, until he stops accepting my invites, is Will McCullen with PIMA Community College IT Center of Excellence. Thank you so much, Will, for thank you for still accepting me into your life.
Oh, come on, it's fun.
Yeah.
A great team. It's a lot of fun.
So Ritesh, your pal and friend Cynthia, this is her fault. Just so you know, she was like, "You've got to meet my CEO. He's the nicest guy and he's brilliant." And I went, "Sure, yes." After probably the 15th or 20th, that's what she said to me, because as everybody knows, this is me and Will fun time. Okay, this is a non-sponsored event. I am not even prepared for that level of production value. It's just not my plan. But we hope to always bring you interesting, insightful, creative conversation that's semi-entertaining in 30 minutes across one of 4 different platforms that we stream to. So, hey, welcome. You found it. Good job. Oh, Happy New Year. Look, I've got a few folks here. Oh, thanks you, Will. We'll blast it out on YouTube. Happy New Year. You're the best. Oh, I see Brad joined us and Brad Rhodes and Musa. I don't know who Musa is, but hey, how are you? From Saudi Arabia. What is up? We're global. Global. Look at it go. I love it.
We're well known to those that know us well.
I was hoping this year will be a better year, but definitely started with a bang for sure, I would say.
Yeah. Anybody else? I was like, well played, December 37th.
Yeah.
Well played. Right. The memes that are coming out of some stuff are at least entertaining. It's breaking the whole, seriousness for it, which I need a little bit of, right? I'm the one that combats serious stress with humor. So if there's anybody else out there that does the same, I'm right there with you, man. We're gonna keep smiling and just pretend that it's just a Tuesday, okay?
Keep smiling and watch the boards. Oh my.
It's a thing. I had some UK friends reach out and they're like, "Are you guys okay over there?" And I'm like, No.
They're not much better off either, by the way. I mean, those guys are struggling with COVID so much. So I would imagine they're probably hurting too.
Yeah, it's pretty bad. That one's my favorite one too, by the way. Thanks, Brad.
Like, come on, vaccine, we need it quick.
I like that one. Can I opt out of 2021? I like that one, Brad.
Yes, exactly. The POC did not go well.
Yes. Yeah. Reject. You're fired.
So many high hopes.
Yes.
Right? The marketing was wonderful for 2021 in December. I loved how we all very much so believed that New Year's Eve, December 31st, 2020, some magical switch was going to flip and suddenly it was all going to be okay. Nope.
People are still people. How about that?
That's the reality of the situation. So, Ritesh, what have you guys got going on over at AirGap? First of all, I know there are lots of people that have joined our call today that they're hearing about you for the first time. I know you're still very new to me. I'm still doing serious dives into some things. Will as well. So we just wanted to circle up and grab a cup and do it the casual way. I like it this way. It's a lot better than sales pitches and marketing. And you're the guy, man. You're the head. That's it.
Oh, thank you. And it comes with its own price, and I'm paying that price, I have to say. And while I'm enjoying it, it's a lot of work. Quick introduction. My name is Ritesh Agrawal. I am the CEO, founder of AirGap. started the company in April of 2019, so almost 2 years now. Feels like eternity though. Had fun along the way, and a lot has happened obviously along the way, both in terms of the company and we all know in terms of the environment itself. But I'm very excited about where AirGap is going. I think we have an opportunity to fundamentally disrupt what's happening in the industry, especially from a security and networking point of view. Prior to starting the company, I was at a company called Juniper Networks. I was managing their $400 million in security business, roughly speaking. And it is there that I realized that there are some fundamental gaps in the technology. For some reason, industry forgot to address the foundational gaps, and that's what results in all of these cyber threats. And I had the opportunity to understand how telcos work, and they are very, very secure. You've never heard about entire subscriber base of AT&T or Deutsche Telekom or Vodafone impacted with ransomware. And we hear the same news for the corporate, and you hear United Health System and Garmin and Canon and so many others that have been impacted with ransomware. And it prompted me to think, what's the difference? And the other secret I will let you guys know, some of you may already know, but for those who don't, you would be shocked to hear that the service providers like the telcos do not buy advanced security solutions. So they do not buy layer 4 to layer 7 security.
I am not surprised. I talk to these folks all the time. It's
there you go. So it puzzled me when I was managing that business, saying these guys have the most to lose. Imagine if AT&T came out and said all your phones have been hacked. I think you would be shocked, but it never happens, and it puzzled me. So I started looking into the technology architecture, and I found a golden nugget there. And once I found a golden nugget, I was like, man, this is so awesome. If enterprises were to deploy their network the same way, they would not have to buy a whole lot of security, and they'll get the same level of protection that you're getting from carriers. And it is going to be as scalable a network as a carrier network is. For example, you see the smallest of the service provider is going to be larger than the largest of the enterprises. And so it's a very scalable solution. It's a very secure solution. And dare I say, it's much cheaper telco solution on a per subscriber basis than it is to operate the enterprise solution. So that's the genesis of AirGap. It is solving the problems at the foundational level that nobody, for some reason, not solving yet. Maybe they haven't found the golden nugget yet. And it has many advantages. And we are seeing a great amount of enthusiasm from the community, tech community, as well as the business community in general for AirGap. You can check out AirGap at airgap.io. Super exciting stuff. I'm very happy to talk to you guys and answer any questions that you may have today. Sorry, I made it a little bit more formal for your taste, Rachel.
No, you're fine. I'm reading through some of the comments here. Hot off the press, Vodafone data breach with a wonderful bleeping computer.
Yeah, there you go. The Vodafone, so there are two sides of a telco. There is the IT side of a telco, and there is the telco subscriber side. It is very rare to hear. I mean, we all are carrying, many of us are carrying Android devices. These are extremely vulnerable devices, probably the most vulnerable operating system. I was chatting earlier, it's like, let's say that out of 100 million subscribers on AT&T, if half a dozen tablets that are on AT&T are infected, somebody bought them on Craigslist that came preloaded with malware. We don't concern ourselves as much as, let's say, another member of your IT organization or your colleague in your office brings a laptop with the malware into the office. I think people will have the vein pops, like, how dare you? But you don't have the same rigor when another colleague or your family or friend has a malware on their cell phone or their tablet. You don't have the same rigor or same concern. And that's the difference I wanted to highlight.
Yeah, and it's, I mean, you bring up some really good points, because in corporations all over the place, the difficulty is, whether it be resources or technical ability or whatever, you see what I often refer to as sloppy IT, right? Where there's a lot of segmentation, a lot of good things that we can be doing, a lot of really good engineering, but it doesn't necessarily end up in place, right? For many different reasons. So how do you approach that? I mean, ransomware is a tough nut to crack. and there's many different approaches at that. Some, with infrastructures that analyze ransomware and things like that, they have to have huge elements, like Palo Alto, right? Everything is taken off and detonated in a virtual space to ways of containing. How do you guys look to crack that nut? I mean, what do you go after?
Very good question, Will. And I am familiar with Palo Alto. I competed with them all my career at Juniper, and I have to admit that they are a very respectable player when it comes to security. Um, our approach is very different than Palo Alto, and it's actually very complementary to Palo Alto or anybody else for that matter. And we go down to there are two aspects of security. First thing first is there is perimeter protection. So when it comes to corporate campuses, you're buying Palo Alto, you're buying FireEye, you're buying CrowdStrike, you're buying dozens of other security solutions, and the idea is to protect the perimeter. And I think that those are all necessary, but they may not be sufficient because we are seeing on a routine basis that the perimeters are breached. And sometimes it's not because these products fail, because there are other ways to breach the perimeter. For example, a supply chain infection. You got 200 laptops that came preloaded with malware. What are you going to do? What is Palo Alto going to do about it? Not much, right? Or somebody took the laptop home and got an infected device into the corporate office, and then that got infected. We all know phishing. We all know how that is impacting because user education is really hard. So yeah, of course, user education and social vulnerability exists for all of us. So what we are suggesting is, unlike perimeter protection product, we cannot promise or claim that we will protect your perimeter. However, once your perimeter is breached, which I suspect pretty much every organization has experienced or will experience sometimes in the future, there lies the foundational problem. The problem is this VLAN-based architecture, which is a segment or a VLAN, whatever you call it, is widespread. It's been deployed for the last 35 years since Cisco and Nortel came up with the notion of VLAN to begin with. And the VLANs were really good at the time because you had the need for lateral communication on the same segment or the VLAN, so to speak. Today, we live in a world where people are working from home. There is no network communication laterally, so to speak. Everything is communicated via applications. So whether it's email or Slack or a Zoom call, or even print server these days, all of those are in the cloud. Hence, that lateral communication channel that exists, in some cases a 10 gig access port, is available but not used legitimately, at least, or in an authorization sense. Who ends up using that highway? There's a 10 gig highway, let's say a VLAN with 100 or 1,000 devices on it, and there is complete lateral access from one device to another device. And guess who ends up using it? It's the bad actors. So air gap comes in and shuts down that highway. And we do that in the most elegant way, where we do not require any endpoint agents or endpoint software to be implemented on every endpoint, because let's face it, everybody hates that. I would be shocked if anybody says, I love the endpoint software, because there are already 20 that they have to deploy, and there is another one that I have to deploy and manage and maintain. Nobody likes it, so we don't do that. We don't like to mangle with any of your investment or infrastructure, so to speak. We don't need to know what all you have invested in, let's say router, switch, or a firewall. We don't need to know the vendors. We don't need APIs into those things. We just sit on the side of the switch and make this happen for you. Now, this sounds good to be true.
That I actually really was like caught on to whenever I was first understanding the product and going through some of the ways that this could possibly integrate into clients' environments that I currently work with, right? Me being vendor agnostic myself and very aware of other products and how they work. If I can grab a hold of something that is, I hate to say one size fits all, but has that capability to like to fit into the environment without forcing it in there or sacrificing any other investments that have already been made, right? Like I can't support a product going into an environment or a solution or service or anything else for that matter that's going to take a previous investment that my client has made and me just be like, well, I guess you shouldn't have bought that. Like, no, that's not how that works, right? Like. Yeah. It all needs to work together. It all needs to flow. And I love the use of the word elegant there. it definitely is an elegant process. There's an art, right, to doing that, and it's amazing. Sorry to interrupt. I had to.
That's a good point. Honestly, I took this playbook out of Palo Alto's diary, actually. So the way Palo Alto became successful, and I've seen them. Those people are Juniper people. They left Juniper, started Palo Alto because they wouldn't get $1 million funding at Juniper. So that was the history. I don't know how true that is. But this happens in the Valley all the time. And probably out of 10 companies that formed out of Juniper, maybe one of them got successful, and we tell that story all day long. So I don't mean to say that Juniper is not a successful company, probably much more successful than anybody else. Having said that, Palo Alto, the way they injected themselves was deploy us for 30 days and 60 days and see the value. And if you like it, we would be able to inject ourselves and you don't have to replace anything. We are doing the same thing where we're saying deploy air gap, see the value. You don't have to replace anything. You don't have to deploy any agents. You can actually migrate one VLAN at a time to air gap. So you don't even have to wholesale commit the entire organization to air gap. God forbid you're not happy with air gap or air gap fails, being a younger company. You don't have to bet the farm on air gap on day one. So you can transfer one VLAN at a time to air gap, see the value, and then go ahead and make a decision to grow in the company.
Okay, that's interesting, and you know, I know you've got some secret sauce there of methodologies of the way that you go about that, and we talked about. So heavily, it's a network kind of solution at the moment. Is that a correct statement?
It is a correct statement. It's not an agent-based solution. It's a network-based solution. And I'll let out some secret sauce for the first time on this call because I like you guys so much.
Oh gosh.
I'm going to get a flag for it, but I'm going to go ahead and take the risk and share with you guys, knowing that you'll keep it confidential.
Well, but confidential to a whole group of folks that are listening.
Absolutely. Let's make it the best kept secret in the industry. You're absolutely right. So what we do is micro-segment the devices, and this is borrowed from telcos. So your phone cannot ping my phone, cannot telnet my phone, cannot trace route, cannot SSH, cannot Windows SMB connect, or cannot VNC connect to my phone. And but you can Slack, WhatsApp, email, Zoom, etc. with me, and that's the secret sauce. The sauce is we put every device in a network of its own, so-called isolated network, and we become the default gateway for all of those devices. So what happens is when you put a device in an isolated network, the only way to talk to other device is actually through a default gateway, and that's how we are able to see the traffic. We're able to control the traffic. And we do have a patent, absolutely. We have some very interesting, about 6 or so far, and we have another one going. I'll tell you the secret sauce is you are on the same VLAN. Even if I give you a network of one, on the VLAN, there is a lateral communication possible. Because the switch doesn't care, it'll do the forwarding. We are able to stop that. And that's our patent, actually. Without having to put anything in the switch, we can still stop that. And that's the secret sauce I'm not allowed to speak about, how we do that, because it's very elegant. Having said that, it is a very simple way to do it.
Right. Okay. So what about ransomware getting in the first place? Are you developing things along those lines? Do you have things along those lines?
Absolutely. There are two parts to ransomware, Will. One is getting into your organization, and there's a whole bunch of companies and investment going to protect that. All of the $10 billion invested in startup ecosystem in the last 2 years from investor community is going into that aspect to begin with. We are going into what next? What if ransomware got through, even if you've built a $10 billion investment into it? We would say, look, first device infection or so-called first patient, we won't be able to protect. We don't claim to protect. But that patient not being able to infect other patient is what our focus is. So this, compare that to a COVID-19 analogy. I mean, first patient getting infected, how do you protect against that? We just don't know. But that patient not being able to propagate the virus or a malware in this case is what our focus is. So what we do is we shut down all unauthorized communication laterally. As we discussed, the two laptops hanging off of the access port doesn't need to talk to each other. For the most part, we would shut that down and we would allow only authorized communication. Now, after that has happened, there are some authorized communication laterally and vertically that you have to allow in order to keep the organization functional. We would then start looking at that traffic. Compared to our competitors, they have to look 100% of the traffic, look at 100% of the traffic. We have to look at only authorized traffic. And so it's much easier for our AI engine to be fine-tuned because we're looking at known traffic. For example, you have one Windows devices printing to a printer. If Windows devices are printing to a printer, we know the printer traffic, much easier to fine-tune the AI algorithm. Let's say a Windows device should be able to send megabytes worth of data to the printer. Printer should be responding in kilobytes of data. I'm just giving a very simple example to you. But that's a very easy algorithm to fine-tune versus I don't know what traffic could be and I need to start identifying what's printer traffic and so on and so forth. So we do complete device identification. We do AI algorithm fine-tuning based on that. Windows file share, if the entropy is changing, we will find out, and so on and so forth. I think Jonathan had a question about, is it SDN for each MAC address? I guess you can say that. However, the implementation is not SDN. SDN can be a pain in the neck to implement. I have done that before. It's not for the faint-hearted. Our solution is so simple that a 50% organization can do this within an hour or less. We had a deployment on Monday with an organization about 2,000 employees. I kid you not, it took 17 minutes to deploy and provide a couple of test cases for POC for them, all within 17 minutes. The call lasted 34 minutes. The remaining 17 minutes was all Happy New Year and
That's what I call the how's you mind them, right? Louisiana, that's what we call that. Or like, you know, the three-step goodbye, right? Where it's goodbye at the door, goodbye at the car, goodbye from the end of the driveway, right?
Yeah,
we do that around here. It's very real.
And I think Buddy had a question about the product acts as a default gateway. It completely integrates with the existing, no changes required in the firewalls or ACLs or VLANs for that matter, right? Because we become the default gateway, the traffic comes to us, and then we send it. If it's a lateral traffic, we provide the control. If it's a vertical traffic, when I say vertical, meaning from device to an application or device to another VLAN, we put the packet back on the wire, which is on the switch, and it goes to its intended destination for that matter. We can control that too, but that's the way it works. Your firewall doesn't know the change has happened. Your switches don't know there's a change that has happened. Your devices don't care if the change has happened because, hey, I have a default gateway, I need to send the traffic. It's an IP stack built into every device, even Apple Watch for that matter. The other cool thing that we have done, this is going to give all of the folks a good chuckle, is you can deploy AirGap and you can deploy Palo Alto and you can deploy FireEye. The reality of the situation is you may still get hit with ransomware. And I would be a fool to say once you deploy AirGap, all your problems are solved. Let's move on.
I was going to say, don't do that. We can't be friends anymore if you do that.
I would lose a lot of respect in the industry if I said that. But let's say, Will, for the next, or anybody on the call, for the next 2 minutes, humor me. Act like you're the CIO of a large organization, let's say Johnson & Johnson. And you get to know today that there is ransomware in the network, in the corporate campus network. What are you going to do?
Oh, are we pretending?
Oh, my lawyer.
Yes.
I'm over here like clicking like buttons and looking at questions and stuff.
Ransomware gets very tricky, right? So you've piqued my curiosity, but now there's elements of ransomware that, if embedded, right, either with command and control communication or with intercommunication, you can detonate a whole bunch of ransomware by simply it being able to detect that you're trying to fight it, right? If it's been embedded. So I love your approach. I love the really excited. I'd love to get my mitts on it and throw Wireshark on. But the really cool part of that is some of those approaches to bring that analysis. I mean, you've got a lot to grow by. You've got a lot of elements that you can throw in to try to define network traffic and things like that. It's really cool. You've got a lot to grow with there.
Absolutely, Will. And I'll answer a couple of questions that showed up. And believe me, this is not the first time I've heard people say, I'm going to update my resume. One funny note one CIO said is, I'm going to get into a fetal position and cry like a baby. Like, okay, that's one way to solve the ransomware problem for sure. There are a couple other questions, whether is it reliant on a particular switch? Absolutely not. We are agnostic. We don't even need you to tell us which switch or hardware you are using. Of course, your network engineers will get full access so that they can see the traffic and they can troubleshoot. But to come back to the ransomware situation, what we have built, and it's a simple and a very elegant solution, and I'm dead sure everybody's going to like it because that's the experience I've had, is we built what is called ransomware kill switch. And it's industry's first ransomware kill switch. And it's the way it works is rather simple. We are the default gateway. All the traffic has to come to us. When the traffic comes to us, in the ransomware kill switch, we give you an opportunity to say, what traffic do you want to stop when ransomware is in effect? You get to know there is ransomware. We are the default gateway. We can allow whatever you want us to allow when you're under attack, and we can stop whatever you want us to stop when you're under attack. So what happens is, you're under ransomware attack, there is no reason for lateral communication to happen. Because worst case, I'm going to lose some print jobs and I'm going to lose some Google Chromecast and Apple TV communication laterally. Totally acceptable loss to me because I'm under ransomware attack. You may want to stop access to your storage system, your backup system, your ERP system, your SAP system, whatever you have in the network. However, you don't want to willy-nilly shut down the entire network. That will be a disaster, especially in the world where false positives are amok. I mean, everywhere you have false positive. Every time somebody told you there is ransomware and you shut down the network, you will not have a job for a very long time.
No.
So, and good luck if you shut down the network and your CEO, who's on an analyst call or a customer call, his call gets disrupted. I don't think you'll have a very pleasant conversation that afternoon. So air-gap will shut down only surgically so, only the systems that participate in ransomware propagation or that are affected by ransomware propagation. For example, your Windows file share, your RDP servers, your backup system, your ERP system. And that's an acceptable loss to the business, saying, look, for the next 2 hours or a day until I figure out where the ransomware originated, I want to instantly stop that communication. And once I have figured out which systems are infected and eliminated from the network, I can switch the ransomware kill switch off, essentially, switch it off. All of this can happen, and we have integrated into email system and everything, so we can even send an email out to your constituents with the template that you have, and that could sound like IT team is going through some maintenance. You will see interruption in some services like printers, blah, blah, blah. Please bear with us. We'll get back to you once everything is back to normal. You will be able to communicate to the audience that you have that are mission critical, and you will be able to take an action. And most importantly, you will be able to stop the propagation within a second. And I'd love to someday, if those who are interested, show you a demo of how cool and how simple it is. It works really, really exactly as it is advertised.
Well, dude, you've obviously, just by looking at the chat elements there, piqued a lot of the propeller head curiosity. Okay, how is this really working? So awesome.
Yeah, definitely. I mean, if anybody's interested in seeing a demo with Ritesh and his team, hit me up. We'll hook it up. No legwork needed. Got you covered. But I also, the other thing I greatly appreciate about Ritesh and his team there is, I heard a rumor that you were going to be making a contribution to a certain foundation that I happen to volunteer for. Not sure if everybody's aware of that, what that is. It's a Innocent Lives Foundation, which is a group of industry professionals that dedicate their time and expertise to unmasking child predators online in a way that is very much so an extension of law enforcement at all levels, right? So it's not a type style group, and with the current state of affairs and the new COVID way of life, so many children and potential victims are now living at home with their predators. So it's a very important thing that those folks are doing over there, and we sure appreciate any help and support that Ritesh and his team are able to lend. So I applaud you, sir. Thank you very much.
It's a privilege and honor, actually. I have a teenager at home myself, and he's on computer probably 20 out of the 24 hours. And I worry about it a lot. Being in the cybersecurity business, that's one of the downside, that you know all the uglies and bads of the internet. And it concerns me a lot, actually.
Yeah, it does. And it's wonderful to be able to support a group like that. There are many charities out there that are obviously struggling this year, not being able to go out and about and preach their missions. But that one's one that's been close to my heart for some time now. I think I threw Chris Roberts in a tutu not too long ago that's how this started. Okay. And then they were like, hey, you're pretty okay. And I was like, oh, thanks. I got where is it? Where did it go? It was just here. Here it is. So if you're not aware, Chris Hadnagy actually, and his team over there are the founders of it, and he's human.
Oh, wow.
I'm so excited. It's going to be my reading for this weekend. The youngsters are just going to have to get over the fact that mommy's bedtime stories are going to be human hacking for when friends influence people and leave them better off for having met you.
Yeah, absolutely.
Wait a minute. You're in IT, right? And you have time to read?
I'm telling you, Audible is my friend. Okay. and on top of that, I suffer from some pretty good amount of adult deficit disorder. I'm sure no one here can ever relate to that whatsoever. And I have all the same things that you guys struggle with, the words floating off of pages. You've got 20 different tabs open in your brain with 13,000 different actions occurring in the background.
Yeah.
Oh, I also have a caffeine addiction. Did anyone notice?
I have my hands stapled to my armchair so I don't look at email while talking to you guys. I've never heard about EDD ever. What's that, by the way? I have no idea what that is.
Right? I mean, it's so infrequent in people in our industry for them to have any sort of mental health, anything at all.
Yeah.
So, if anybody needs any help finding any sort of resources or mental health associations or anything else, you can hit me up for that too. I will help you out. We unfortunately lost a good friend over the weekend, and it was
absolutely
hard news to take. So I just want to extend that out there once again. I know Chris Roberts has made a very beautiful post concerning that. There are lots of folks down in the comments section that are offering an ear, a helping hand, whatever it is that anybody may need. So please take advantage of those things. It's always too much to handle alone, but we're here. You're not alone ever.
And we got to keep the community up, right? And awesome. I'm really appreciative that you're willing to come and share and handle all of the tech types that are really curious as well. And it sounds like you've got a really kind of intriguing product. And thank you for being part of fighting this battle, right? Because this nation all around, if we could just wipe out ransomware or wipe out some of this malware, we could return a lot of that money that's stolen back into companies, organizations. And when you're talking about things like hospitals and stuff like that, you're literally saving lives. So thank you for being part of the solution.
I appreciate that. And I started this for precisely that reason. You cannot, I keep telling this to my colleagues and friends who want to start a company. I keep telling them, if you're motivated just by finances, you will never be successful. You have, because there's so much trouble that you have to go through, so much pain that you have to go through, that you will give up if you're only motivated by money. And honestly and truly, I'm motivated more by the desire to save companies and lives at times, that my sales guys don't want me to be the front-facing negotiator when it comes to money, because I just want to make sure people are safe. And this sounds too good to be true, but that's the only motivation that will keep you driving to build a company, because there's so much pain involved. I'm very excited about talking to many of the folks. I know I couldn't answer all the questions that showed up, but I'm happy to connect one-on-one. My email is ritesh@airgap.io. Spelling for my name is on the screen. Hopefully you can see it, RITESH @airgap.io. Our website is airgap.io. I would love your feedback, even if you don't want to buy it, but I would love to technical brainstorm with you. I'm a geek at heart. I would welcome a technical conversation, and promise to not make it a sales pitch. I just want to chat with you. So
Good.
Awesome.
We like happy nerds. That's that's usually
And real nerds,
I
right?
try on a regular basis. It's yes, definitely come nerd out with Ritesh.
Yeah.
Thank you again, everyone, for hanging out today and circling up with a cup. Next week, we're actually going to hang out with some other favorites of mine, Evan Franson and Ryan Cloutier from Security Studio, who actually have a very similar mission to and passion in their hearts as Ritesh and his team. It's always mission before money. So they've got some really cool stuff that they're working on the side. It's not a sales pitch, guys. It's really not. It's just free resources and information sharing and the opportunity to put very nice men like Ritesh's feet to the fire. Which I don't know about y'all, but it's always fun when it's done well, right? So, oh, sure, okay. Sorry, a chicken.
Yeah,
Thank you so much.
next week should be fun. Those are fun, folks. I'm looking forward to that.
Forward to it. I'll join. I mean, this has been the most fun I had in the whole week so far. So I'll join you next call.
I'm gonna pretend like the bar was real high and like all this week. That's what I'm going with. Yeah. It's been a lot of fun hanging out with you guys too. Did anybody want to make any closing statements or anything else before we? Oh wow, we're already 9 minutes over time. Sorry guys. Thanks for hanging out.
Yeah, it was awesome. Thank you so much, and I'm looking forward to keeping connected, because I'm curious to hear how things go and all that. So that's awesome.
Thank you. Yeah, I enjoyed the same.
And we'll see everybody next week. Thanks, guys. Have a great rest of Friday and a happy weekend.